Hi everybody, Happy New Year. We are starting off this year's videos with another Once Upon a Point. I know you guys have been wanting one for a while. So we are going to continue on chronologically from the last one in the company, which was when I danced Christopher Wheeldon's Carousel, which if you haven't seen, I'll link above and below. What happened basically after that, as you can tell by the title of this video, was my first Nutcracker. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about that process of being an apprentice doing Nutcracker with New York City Ballet and what that's like. So Carousel went great, great reviews. Again, if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and watch it so you know where we are. So literally the day after the gala, that particular year, we opened Nutcracker, or if not the day after, then several days later. It was very quick. And reality came back in, and in the first year of Nutcracker as an apprentice with New York City Ballet, you are put through the ringer. It's kind of like the apprentice test. You have to do all 46 to 48 shows. You do not get an alternate. Typically, core members after their first year will get a snow alternate, they'll get a flowers alternate, they'll get, whatever core part they have. They will have somebody they'll trade off and on with, so they don't have to do 48 Nutcrackers in a row. But apprentices, when you aren't even technically a member of the company yet, you have to do every single show. It is definitely one of the hardest seasons. It's kind of one of those things that if you can make it through Nutcracker, you can make it through anything because it is really difficult. It really, what it did is gave me an appreciation for people on Broadway. I mean, those guys do the same show 8 times a week for years, not 8 times a week for 6 weeks. So I did, my very first year, I did the core of Snow and I did the core of Spanish in the second act. And that's all I did for every show. And it does take a lot of mental toughness. Yes, physically it's challenging because Balanchine's Snow is very difficult. It's so much fun to do. I never actually really got tired of doing Snow at all. Spanish core is easy, it's short, whatnot. I did get tired of doing that. And typically the apprentices do, everybody does Snow, women, everybody does Snow, and then you're either a short girl who does the core of Spanish, or you're technically the taller, middle to taller people do flowers. So I did Spanish. And you're also in the party scene. I forgot to mention that. I was the grandmother because I was short. Short people are the maids and the grandmother, and the taller people are the parents, because you have to have a really big height difference between the little kids and the parents, because some of the parents are like 18. So you got to show, for the stage, you got to show the height difference. So yeah, I played the grandmother. That was interesting. It was not my favorite, I'm not gonna lie. It's, to have 18-year-olds playing a grandmother is a bit of a stretch. And I remember I was in full, stage makeup with the wig on, and then to go right into Snow, you take the wig off, you put the snow crown on. But Snow I loved doing. Everybody who does Balanchine Snow loves it. I really didn't get tired of it. It's that incredible of a piece. And then Spanish core, it's fun. You get to wear, each girl has a different colored tights along with their partner. So there's the red girl, the blue girl, the purple girl, the pink girl. I was red, I believe. I was red. Red tights, red pointe shoes. So that was really fun. And the headpieces for those costumes weigh like 10 pounds. So you kind of feel like, you feel a little bit off balance. And then the dresses are really heavy, so you jump and it's just like a weight weighing you down. So the hardest part about Spanish is not the choreography, it's the costume. So going back to the story, several days after Carousel, we started Nutcracker. And actually, the New York Times, that particular season, followed myself and David Protus around. I think I've mentioned this on here before, but they followed us around to kind of document our apprentice year. And they did a big article on it with lots of photos. I will link that in the box below if you are interested in reading it. And it was just us. I think they documented me through Carousel. They documented us through Nutcracker. The boys in Nutcracker, first of all, if they complain during Nutcracker, because the core boys do mice and Spanish core, which is like the easiest thing you could do. And then the principal boys, the hardest working boys in Nutcracker are the ones that do candy cane or Chinese or, And then the principal men do Cavalier, but they don't even have a solo. Balanchine's Nutcracker, the Sugar Plum Fairy does her solo at the top of the act with the angels, and then all the divertissements happen, and then they just do the pas de deux and the coda. And so the Cavaliers do not come on until the pas de deux, and they don't even have a solo. So gentlemen, if you ever get into New York City Ballet or any company that does Balanchine's Nutcracker, little heads up, don't complain during Nutcracker because the girls are dying. So just don't. And it really was a test. I mean, to say, oh, I can do 6 weeks in a row. By week 2, you're like, I'm getting tired of this. And you have to find ways to make it interesting. You have to find ways to keep yourself in it, because you have to remember every time you do a show, it's someone's in the audience's first time. There might be some little kid sitting in that audience who's never seen Nutcracker before, and it may be your 13,000th performance of it. Not really, but you know what I mean. And you can't just kind of slop your way through it. And this is for everybody, in every performance that you do. You've got to remember there's some little kid out in the audience who's never seen it before, like your first time going to the ballet. So that kind of helps get you through. I remember we would play games a little bit, like all the snowflakes would decide, okay, tonight we're Disney princesses, so everybody pick a Disney princess and dance as that princess. It doesn't change the choreography and the audience has no clue, but it's a way for us to keep it fresh and interesting and not, we've already done 87 shows of this. So, but it is hard because as an apprentice, full disclosure, if you want to be in the New York City Ballet and you get to be an apprentice, you got to do all 48 Nutcrackers with no alternate. And it's really hard because the way they rehearse us too for snow, because it is very tiring, we would run it twice in a row. And it's really hard for the girls with no alternates because they have to do it twice. You know, we run it twice for 2 casts. So, okay, cast A, okay, cast B. And if you don't have an alternate, you got to do it twice. So it really tests your stamina. Even that rehearsal process tests your stamina. But yeah, that was really my first Nutcracker, was just being able to watch all the principal dancers I had admired for so long do Sugar Plum, do Dewdrop, and just kind of dream about it. It's definitely one of those Nutcrackers when it's your first year. You know, New York City Ballet's Nutcracker is so iconic, and most of us had seen it before. You'd seen it on television or whatnot, and then suddenly you're standing there and you're in it. You know, you might be in the core of Spanish, but you really don't care because it's so iconic. And it's, you know, if anything City Ballet does all year that's their season, it's Nutcracker, you know. So, and I remember one of my mishaps from one of my performance mishap videos happened that first year with Tyler Peck, who was in the corps at the time. And she and I, you know, the snow that falls during that scene, somehow, or maybe somebody left it on during party scene, a pen fell out of the sky. And we were so fixated on looking at this thing that we just completely collided, and I hit the floor and she half hit the floor. And so that was a memory from my first Nutcracker. But really, it's a season that is not meant to be, especially for apprentices, it's not meant to be glorious. You learn how a company works. You learn how to take care of yourself. Because again, if you can make it through that season, you can make it through anything. You learn how to pace. You learn how to eat well. And it's kind of trial by fire. And it's a really good test to show these young apprentices, look, this is how company life really is. It's 48 snows in a row. And sometimes 2 show days back to back, and 2 on a Saturday and 2 on a Sunday, and maybe sometimes you even have to do it on a Monday. You know, so it's tough, but it's a great training tool, and you really start to see who's going to sink and who's going to swim. And so go read that article about David and I. It explains more about Nutcracker there as well. So then, yeah, I just remember that was really my first Nutcracker, was just snow and Spanish, and learning the ropes and seeing dancers and just being in it, which after having just done the lead in Carousel was like so stress-free for me, because I just think, well, if I was having a rough day, well, I'm not the principal today, I'm not in Carousel, I just get to do snow. So it was kind of nice actually to like have a season where you figure it out. Because then once winter season hit that year, then things really started to happen for me, which I'm going to talk about in a different video. But yeah, go read the article. You might find it interesting. We will continue on with Once Upon a Pointe in future videos. I know this was kind of a shorter one but hopefully that gave you some insights as to New York City Ballet's Nutcracker, etc. Coming next week, I'm going to be doing another Pointe class for you guys, so you have that to look forward to. It's going to be a little bit harder than the last one, and it will include some center. I know you guys have been looking forward to more Pointe classes, so that is coming next week. If you missed the video of my Romeo and Juliet death scene with commentary, it's right down there. You can click it to watch. Love you guys so much. Happy New Year, and I will see you next week.